Hello, everyone. My name is Aisha More, and welcome to the Making Your Own video series. And I just love having conversations with people who are choosing their own destiny and directing their own journeys, and are usually closer to the beginning of their discovery journey than the end. And it's just wonderful to be able to hear their stories and hear their journeys, and hopefully be able to share some advice, knowledge, the experience with you to help you make decisions to live life on your own terms as well. So today I've got Rosie Clark with me, who I met on the Upfront Bond 4, which is run by Lauren Curry. The Bond is an amazing space. It's an incredible space, and we are there to help build up our confidence, to help build up how upfront we are about who we are and what our needs are, and not letting society, not letting rules, not letting things that are just not of us direct how we are moving in our lives. And yeah, it's going to be great having a conversation with Rosie today. And please, Rosie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. So my name is Rosie Clark. I live down in Brighton on the south coast of England. I'm a mum of a 3-year-old, and for the last 12 years, I've had a really interesting career with the same employer. I've been working for a non-profit that helps museums and galleries to reach audiences, mostly online. And part of that was a decade spent running the Museums at Night Festival. But now, after 12 years, I'm at the start of a new journey. I am going on to something else, and I'm not quite sure what. So this is why I decided to join the Upfront Bond, because it's been a long time since I have had any job interviews, since I've put myself out there, and I wanted to feel more confident about doing that.
That's magnificent. And it's so great that you've used the word confidence, because that is a lot of what we are working to redress on the Bond, isn't it? So I would really like to hear about your journey with confidence. Have you always been a confident person from childhood, or is this something that you've built up to? How's that been for you?
I think I'm very lucky and privileged to have been born into a family where I always knew that I was loved and would be supported in whatever I wanted to do. So that gave me security, emotional security right from the start. I think I've always been quite happy talking to people, but traveling the world and living in other countries, starting again in different cities on my own, that meant that I had to be confident. And even though I didn't always speak the languages, I always tried to muster enough to be able to come into a shop or a hostel or wherever I needed to be and attempt to find a connection with the people around me, even if it's just using a lot of body language and smiling hopefully. And generally that worked. So I've always felt pretty confident about walking into a room and starting a conversation with people. Normally, my tactic is to try and find somebody on their own who maybe doesn't look like they know anyone either, or someone else who's, if it's one of those fancy occasions, somebody else who's hovering by the door waiting for the arrival of the canapes. I'm like, oh, you're on my wavelength. We'll have something in common.
That's great.
Yes. But while I feel very confident with people, taking this next step in my career is a little bit daunting. I have definitely fallen into not the trap, but the issue that affects a lot of women of you look at a job description and you think, oh yeah, I can do that, and I've not done that before. Maybe it's not for me. But now I'm trying to step into, actually, I love learning. I love learning new things. I'm going to apply, even if I can't do everything, and try to show up and say, I have not had the opportunity to practice this yet, but I familiarise myself with it in theory, and I'm so keen to dig in and have a go.
I think that's a wonderful sort of approach to use to start testing out the water, because it can be quite difficult to know how to move forward in things like bravery and confidence. And I feel like that's like a big part of why a lot of women especially don't end up moving forward with their confidence, because they think they have to make this big grand sort of thing of I always say please and thank you. I'm going to stop saying please and thank you to people, and they feel like they need to do this sort of like grand thing in order to be confident. But being able to take that step forward, that actually I enjoy learning, or I enjoy just doing this bit more than it was that I'm doing before, and stepping out there, I think that's a great way to go about it.
Well, shall I tell you about a recent recruitment process that I went through just in the last few weeks? I didn't end up getting this job, but
Okay.
I was honestly so impressed. You know how things have changed a lot, certainly since I was last interviewing many years ago. And the whole process, they really, really thought incredibly hard about being as inclusive and welcoming as they possibly could be. So at the bottom of the job ad, they didn't just have the standard, we encourage applications from members of underrepresented groups, because let's face it, every job ad now says that, and that alone, that's a very low bar. But they said, if you don't meet all the requirements, apply anyway. We are open to different thinking. We would love to hear from you. If you have any specific accessibility requirements or anything that might make this easier for you, we want to know about it right up front. So I put in the application, and then when I was called for interview, they reiterated again, if there's anything that we can do to make you feel more relaxed in this process, please let us know now. And I said, well, I can't think of anything. No, I'm sure I'm fine. And then I got a message back saying that one of the applicants had requested this accommodation, so we would all get it, and that was to decrease anxiety in the interview room. They were going to send everybody the questions the night before, so that we weren't sort of coming in madly keyed up and then suddenly freezing as we were asked them. Yes, so we had the chance to review the questions, to make a little plan about how we might respond to them. So you're going in there with your answers, not everything written out word by word, but just so that you don't have that awful kind of esprit d'escalier, afterwards as you're going, you're like, I should have said that. Yes, yeah. Genuinely, it was just wonderful. And then they gave me written feedback in an email and said, we have all your notes here. If you'd like more in-depth feedback about, not just why you're bad and why you didn't get this job, but precise pointers you could take forwards, let's have a Zoom conversation about it.
Wow.
Genuinely, as an employer, I was like, I have so much respect for you. And that's why I wanted to tell you and your audience about this way of working. And any time that I am ever in a position to do recruitment in future, I am going to model it on that process, because it was
amazing.
It just made you feel very cared for, not like they were in this position of power and, they'll judge who's worthy, but they want to meet you on your level and make you welcome.
That's incredible. I'm trying to imagine the possibilities of going to a job interview, being able to not only get feedback, but have a conversation after not getting the job, just to get more, and how much better prepared you'll be for when you go on to another interview, or if you were ever to apply at the same place again. Like, it's like a no-brainer almost, but
it's so valuable. But I mean, at their end, they had to consciously decide that they were going to focus on being as successful as possible, put in the time and the effort, talk with consultants about how they could do this well, and then put in all the time for is aftercare the right word? That's not quite the right word. But, following up. Yeah, because genuinely that has made such a difference to my impression of that company.
And you see, and I think that's something I could just put like on a frame. The impression you have of a company from even not getting their job. But if they put another advert out, I bet you'll be right there. You'll be right there wanting to work with them.
I would absolutely work with them. But more than that, I would send that advert around anyone in my network and say,
exactly,
these are good people. Yeah.
I think that's a magnificent thing to know that can happen from people just giving care, a bit more time, and just some care. So thinking of that, I'm thinking on to the type of care that we then get in the workplace. Because as someone who has extensive experience of working in a workplace, I wonder, because I know it came up in the Bond, in some spaces, someone gave out an article talking about not just having people who thought you were good, but you wanted to have cheerleaders. You didn't just want to have people who were just mentors. You wanted cheerleaders who were going to who are going to go
Yes.
beyond that. And you mentioned it just before we started our conversation as well. So I would love to be able to tease out what it is that you see as the value of that.
Yes. The article that I read, we must find the link and pop it in your show notes. It was about the difference between coaches, mentors, and sponsors. So for mentorship, which I have really benefited from, working for this non-profit, they paired up every staff member with a member of the board of trustees who had experience in something that staff member was interested in learning about. So I was on a journey to become a better marketer, and they paired me with our wonderful chair of the board, Hannah Rafferty, who has worked in marketing at Penguin and Pottermore, and now she's at Lego, and she's been at BBC Worldwide. And it turns out, after I met up with her, that she is a mentor for quite a number of women in marketing who she sort of picked up along the way and thought, oh, you're interesting, you've got good future potential. Wow. So she's arranged these a series of Brains Trust dinners where we would, now this was pre-pandemic, where we'd all meet in London, go and have a meal together, and we'd all talk about like issues about getting ahead at work, you know, what would everyone else recommend? Everyone who's, you know, doing marketing at this level in a range of different organizations. So the fact that she not only guided me, but connected me with all these other people who could also guide me as a peer, that has been invaluable. But in terms of sponsorship, which is when a more senior person, you provide value to them, but they also put you forward for opportunities and make sure that you get in the room where it happened. They're not just giving you advice that you then need to take. They're actually taking a chance on you.
Of course.
And you've got to live up to that. I was immensely fortunate that Coach 24, the organisation I work for, brought on board Nick Stockman, who came from running Brighton Fringe beforehand. And so he was my direct manager. There were only two of us running this twice yearly festival of hundreds of museum lates at museums up and down the UK, including the Harrison Preston, where I believe you formerly worked. Yeah. And he was somebody with an immense gift of hustle. Like he'd make a plan, go full out, hit the phones, you know, we make like lists of spreadsheets of, okay, here's who we need to get on board and go. And it put me back in mind of back in my earlier life as a family. We used to do quite a lot of car boot sales. I realise this is a bit of a leap, but we used to turn up with our car boot sale, load things out on a table, and try and shift our stuff, and getting as much money for it as possible, but basically trying to get rid of things.
Of course.
And that I was tapping back into that mentality of where you've got to like draw people in, you've got to start conversations, you've got to sell things. I don't think of myself as a natural salesperson, but can I talk enthusiastically about something? Yes, I absolutely can.
That's what sales is, though. It's the enthusiasm that you buy when you go into a shop, even with the most sort of like basic utilities. If I went into a shop and there were wonderful, bright bowls of apples, and there was one guy there who's just going like, come and get some apples. They're the freshest that you're going to ever see. If you crunch into them, you're going to feel the life coming into you. And there's an equally gorgeous bowl right next to it, but it's got no one on it. I'm going to the one with the fella selling. Like I'm going there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, it's the enthusiasm is why you end up buying into what people do a lot of the time.
Definitely. So that finding out that I was able to inspire more people in this way professionally was fantastic. And he delegated lots of responsibility to me for setting up all kinds of kind of sub-projects within the festival, encouraged me to study marketing, and encouraged me to go for the Claw leadership course. It's this 2-week kind of residential for future arts leaders. And I'd not sort of imagined myself as a future leader. But the fact that he had the confidence to push me for it and write me references, and when I got knocked back, I had to apply 3 times. I get knocked back and eventually got onto it, and I'm like, right, I've applied more than anyone else. I deserve this place. I'm going to make the most of it. And that in turn put me in touch with a wonderful cohort of people working in culture and heritage all over the UK who I still rely on to this day. And none of that would have happened without somebody seeing the spark and
really like sort of giving you that, not just going, this would be a good idea for you to do, really sort of almost getting you to just move yourself physically into the spaces.
It's about having somebody who encourages you to raise your expectations of yourself. Absolutely. So I'm incredibly fortunate to have had that. And whenever I've worked with interns or volunteers, or, you know, been able to direct other, you know, groups of people, I've always tried to instill that confidence in them and say, you're capable, and that is more than you think.
And that's the wonderful thing that I love about having someone who's your champion and your cheerleader, because they encourage you to be someone else's champion and cheerleader, because you see the benefit so clearly. It's a no-brainer to pass that on to someone else, and then they go on ahead to make more and make more. So I try to encourage people to like take ownership of the benefit that they have to provide other people, because a lot of the time it can feel like I haven't been in leadership for this long, or I haven't got this qualification, or I'm kind of shy in these spaces, but you have so many things of value within you. So paying it forward, I try to encourage people not to have such a high gauge. Sometimes you just happen to be better at planning parties than someone else. So give your tips to someone else to plan a party and pay it forward that way. They'll be better for you helping them out.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, start by giving. Start by giving. Start by putting things out. And then when you need to ask, people will be there for you. Shall I talk about the redundancy?
Yes, I think it'll be great to hear about the value of being able to help others, because mentorship and sponsorship is a way of helping others, and there are many ways that I'm sure you'll be able to reflect on in terms of paying it forward and how that builds you up. I would really love to hear about how it's built you up, because you've heard about how having this person who is your champion and your sponsor has built up your confidence to help other people. It'll just be lovely to hear your reflections on helping others, and yes, definitely hearing about this redundancy journey that's helped you, that's pushed you again, it's pushed you further into challenging yourself.
It's been a strange few months, I tell you that. I mean, you know, we're recording this on 1st of July 2021. The pandemic is still mid-flow. When it began, I was working remotely. That's okay. We'll make it work. A bit tough with a 2-year-old then running around, but we made it work. And then I was part furloughed, so only working 1 day a week. And that went on from November up until June. And that started to knock my confidence. I can't deny. I love being around people, being together in the office, like chipping in ideas to projects, making things happen. And after all those weeks and weeks and weeks of just tuning in every Thursday morning and saying, okay, lovely to see you all on this Zoom. What shall I do today? Okay, I'll go and do that then. Right. Okay, see you next week. It just felt diminishing. But when they finally said, okay, we are going to have to make you redundant, it's not because of the quality of your work, this is just something that a lot of people are experiencing, I was a bit prepared for it. You know, I thought this was probably coming. I'd sort of begun doing some different training and thinking about what I might want in my future. But my immediate reaction was, oh, this is so tough for them, for the bosses. Oh, and I'm like, oh, don't worry, that's okay, it'll be fine. Don't you dwell on it. You know, I can see you're upset and I don't want that to be, you know, better things ahead. And then I sort of got off that call and thought, right, what now? I've never been through this process before, but I'm so lucky to have a lot of people in my network. And I guess I hadn't even really thought about it in a transactional way, but for years and years, if I'd come across, you know, a job opportunity I thought someone would be good for, or an arts commission, or listen to a podcast I thought they might find interesting, I'd just fire off a message and say, oh, I saw this and thought of you. You might be interested in this. Just putting it out there. So when this happened, I was like, okay, I'm going to tell all my support groups on WhatsApp and everything. I'm going to say, I am facing redundancy. I do not know what to do. Do I fight it? Do I Do I just take the money and run? What next? Who's been through this? Please tell me, what do I need to know? I have no clue. And it was amazing, the support that I got. I want to give a shout out to my wonderful friend Zahida Din, who came and sat with me in my mum's garden under a tiny gazebo as a thunderstorm was raging. We were huddling by a table with our pots of tea. You know, when we social distancing and we couldn't meet indoors. And she talked me through what her process had been like and gave me all kinds of guidance. And now I feel completely armed to advise anyone else about going through redundancy, about finding a good solicitor, about what you need to talk to. But at the time, it shook me. In fact, over this last sort of few days of preparing for it, I wanted to say goodbye. I wanted to say goodbye to all the museum people who I've been working with for the last 12 years. But what would have made it so much easier would have been if I had a job to go to. So you can say, it's been lovely, and now I'm going on to something glorious and even better. Isn't it magnificent? But I couldn't say that. And I was thinking, oh, how do I frame this? You know, this is quite vulnerable to say, I'm not quite sure what's next. So instead, encouraged by people in the bond, I leaned in on gratitude and I crafted this story. It has been an amazing 12 years. Here are some of the highlights. I've valued learning so much, you know, on all of these projects from all of these people. And then I did something that I was a bit daunted about. I said, I don't know what the future holds for me. I am planning long-term retraining in counselling and psychotherapy 1 day a week. So I'm looking for communications, editorial, marketing type work 3 days a week. If you're reading this and you know of anyone that might be looking for someone like me, please let me know. And I put that out publicly. And
incredible.
I wasn't sure about it.
I saw that.
But thank you for seeing that, and thank you for reaching out, because since then, and it's only been a few days, I have had an absolute deluge of people who you know, I might have helped with bring an artist to their museum in 2011, saying, I remember that, it made a difference. You're awesome, you'll find something, best of luck, keep going. And even a couple of potential job opportunities have come to me just from putting that out, putting the ask out there. And I am so glad that I took a risk and put it out there, because it's come back to me tenfold. I'm so grateful.
It's so incredible that we, as just people, human beings in general, are so hesitant to ask for help. And a lot of us are so helpful. We're so willing to give help and so hesitant to ask. And I was updating my LinkedIn profile recently, and as part of sort of like the algorithm being snazzy, it was like, oh, have you thought about doing this to your profile? It might bring people here. Have you thought about putting out the type of work you want to do on your profile? And so I put it on there, and it sort of generated this advert saying, reach out to your network saying you're looking for this kind of work. And I thought about it. I was like, this is new, and I kind of have something in the pipeline, and so I don't want to commit myself, and I don't really know anyone. And I was doing all of this stuff, and I thought to myself, you know what? The fact that you're thinking about it this much, just go for it. So I just put, like, it was the most basic advert. It's like, I am going for my new role as a service designer, and I would love it if anyone in my network could help out. And I tagged about 5 or 6 people and said, help a sweetie out. And I just put it out there. And I've had, like, this is literally on about 24 hours ago, had 10 people like come to me and go, oh, I think this vacancy might suit you. Oh, I think this would be a good person for you to get to know. I think you should do this. And there was one of them that I've had about maybe 6 people say to me, go for this job. I think this one will suit you. And it's just amazing. Like, I didn't, nothing. Like, I did
you
things.
Did it. You put yourself out there. You took that risk, and it's come back to you, absolutely. Because when I clicked on your LinkedIn as we were preparing for this, and I saw, oh, she's looking for service design. Okay, I wonder if I'll keep an eye out. Service design, right? Okay, it worked. It's making a difference.
Yes, it's great, and I think that is so valuable for everyone to just remember that there are risks that come with asking for help, because not every single human being is so wonderful and sweet. There are people who aim to embarrass or insult, which I think is part of like the anxiety people have that they're going to be embarrassed or something, someone's going to say something, or they're going to look weak or something. But the vast majority of human beings are pretty decent, and they just want
Absolutely.
you, they want you to do well.
You know what I have internalized now? That many times if somebody does say something mean or rude, it's a them problem. It's something
That's
that they're
amazing.
going through. It's not a me problem.
It's
I've
not.
been polite, I've been professional. They can keep that. They're not putting that on me.
And yeah, I think that is, and that is a strong stance to take. I don't think it's easy to be able to take on some of the hurtful things that people can say and be able to categorically go, that's not for me, that's for them to hold on to. So I commend you. I commend you for having having that attitude. But what I would
I
like
haven't
to
always, it's been a journey to get
exactly.
to this attitude. Well, I mean, just as an example of the fact that this is very much still an active journey for me. When I shared my piece with Bond, I got a comment from somebody saying, "Wow, you are incredible. What a list of achievements. That's extraordinary." And my immediate response was to start typing this comment back to her saying, "Oh, that's so kind of you to say, but do bear in mind that this is over a 12-year job. I spent a lot of time just sitting at my laptop and on the phone. You know, it was very, I wasn't going out visiting museums all the time."
Yeah.
Then I deleted that and I just said, "Thank you. And you know what? If you look at your last 12 years, I bet you have lots of brilliant achievements
Oh,
too."
wow. Well done. See what a cheerleader you are.
It's just about taking a breath sometimes, isn't it? And
Yeah.
just trying not to diminish your achievements,
And
to
that's
own the
it.
positivity, and then to try and send something encouraging back to that person. Yeah.
I think that's amazing. And what I would like to wrap up with is something that we've already touched on, really, and this idea of vulnerability as strength as opposed to weakness, and wondered what came to mind when I say that.
Honestly, when you mention vulnerability, I think about when I became a mum. There were various sort of complications with the pregnancy and things, and I ended up with some health conditions. It took me a while, and do you remember when your hormones go haywire and just that sensation that there were tears just brimming up behind your eyes and anything could
Was
just
just
make them well over and make you cry, and that strange readjustment of your brain that happens. I lost my ability to visualize dates, to think, oh yes, we're Monday, we're here in the calendar.
right.
I normally have a sort of I can visualize in my mind where I'm at in the year, in the month, in the week. I lost all capacity for that. I've always been good at spelling, and suddenly I couldn't spell words correctly. I was an emotional mess, and at that time, my husband was extraordinary. My parents came to stay, and when I was really struggling with breastfeeding, my sister, who's a mum of 3, came to stay, and for over 24 hours, she said, "Look, anytime the baby wakes up, wake me, and I will get you latched on." And you know, all throughout the days and nights, she would come and she'd sort of arrange us, and she made it work for us. And that was, I wouldn't say I was at my lowest, because it was wonderful to, you know, to have our baby here at last. But I was awash in emotion and confusion and love and overwhelm and weeping and leaking. It honestly, the sight of my husband with our precious newborn just holding her in his arms and just going boop on her nose. And I was like, why are my feet wet? Why are my feet wet? What's this drip, drip,
No,
drip?
that's it.
And I had started lactating from the cuteness, from the rush of oxytocin hormones.
I know what you mean.
So it's a strange example, but I've always just been able to depend on my body, and suddenly body and mind and emotions were all over the place.
That's a very vulnerable space to be in.
Oh, it absolutely is. And the support that I got at that time from my family and friends, and just from other mums, in my book group, in the NCT group, just people who were also up at 4 a.m. going, yes, this is normal. Me too. Yes. Oh, I was so grateful for that. And that's why I always, like, if I see a mum with a baby who's struggling, I'll always say, can I get you a drink of water? Can I hold something? Can I just, I don't want to be intrusive, but I remember not having enough hands during a town centre poo explosion, and there's nowhere to put her down, and you're just...
You know what? And I'm thinking about that. And there is a great deal of, I think, knowing that you've been through that experience and you had to rely on so many people for so many different things. You come out of it and you're like, oh no, I'm not a terribly weak person. I have the support network and I'm fine. And I get a great deal now. It's not easy when you're in the moment of strength from being able to go, you know what, this isn't, I'm not enough right now for this. I can't do all of this. And being able and willing to go, I'm going to take the help and I'm just going to take it without reservations because I'm going to be stronger as a result of letting myself be helped now. And I think that's like an incredible lesson that I think motherhood is quite swift at teaching people. It can be anyway. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful, just wonderful speaking to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I can't wait. I can't wait till the next place that you get to be hired because you're an incredible asset. I feel like you have such a sunshiny face. It'd just be great to have in the work and get stuff done and keep everyone up.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear. And I can't wait for your next glorious service design future. There's so many possibilities for you. It's going to be brilliant.
It's going to be great. So thank you so much for your time. We'll speak again soon.